Welcome, everybody, to the school board meeting of Independent School District 271. Today is Monday, September 11th, 2017 at 7 p.m. All board members are present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that will then bring us to recognition of students, staff, and public. And at this time, I'd like to invite any of the seniors that are here for their government class to please join us up here at the podium. A requirement of our 12th grade government classes is to observe a governmental meeting of some sort. Things that they may attend are city council meetings, school board meetings, courtroom proceedings, etc. The social studies curriculum guide identifies essential standards, one of which is to understand the role and influence of political processes and organizations by examining the role of interest groups, think tanks, the media, and public opinion on the political process and public policy formation. So just state your name and your teacher's name, and then give your 500-word essay, I believe you have to. No? Okay.
I'm Nick Lindquist, and I'm here for Mr. Daniel Sterling's history class.
All right.
I'm Princeton Opong, and I'm also here for Mr. Sterling's government class.
Well, thank you for being here this evening.
I think they should be commended because they're the earliest
You're the first.
attendees.
Yes, you're the first.
Usually it's
first group,
everybody
so
waits
thank
till the
you
last minute.
for this year. Getting it done early. Most of the kids, it's usually the last 2 or 3 weeks of school of class. At the close of the session or after 1 hour, whichever is shorter, you can ask for a signature on the agenda from any one of our administrative cabinet members here sitting on the side. And if you don't have an agenda, it's this green sheet that you'll find over by the door. Thank you. Is there anyone this evening who wishes to address the school board on an item that is not on this evening's agenda? Seeing none come forward, we'll move on. I do have a statement here, expressions of support. Today marks the 16th anniversary of the attacks on the World Trade Center and Pentagon and the downing of Flight 93, which carried one of our own, Thomas Burnett, a 1981 graduate of Jefferson High School. Today, for the second time in 2 weeks, we are witness to the effects of a hurricane on families, schools, and communities. The cleanup and rebuilding continues. We're reminded of the dozens of forest fires currently burning across 8 western states, the smoke and ash being felt and seen here in Minnesota. In all of these events, we have seen an incredible outpouring of support and acts of heroism. In the aftermath of events that shake our confidence in the order of things, our communities come together. United we stand. We pause now to remember the lives lost and fractured in all of these man-made and natural disaster events, and give thanks for the resilience of citizens, communities, states, and nation. Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. And that will bring us to Part A of our agenda. Part A includes board business, minutes, personnel actions, field trip approvals, grants, and finance. Can I get someone to move the acceptance of Part A as stated?
So moved.
Second?
Is there any discussion about the Part A of our agenda this evening?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to point out that the grant that's being received is from the Education Foundation of Bloomington in the amount of over $17,000. And some of those proceeds came from our golf tournament, which I still want to thank the community for supporting.
Well, thank you, and
Thanks.
send our thanks to the Education Foundation on
I
our
will.
behalf. Thank you. All those in favor of approving Part A, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And that will bring us over to Part B on our agenda. We have the approval and ratification of the 2017-19 master contract between Independent School District 271 and the Food Service Association.
Mr. Chair, Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approve and ratify the 2017-2019 master contract between Independent School District 271, Bloomington, Minnesota, and the Bloomington Food Service Association.
Second.
I'll welcome our Executive Director of Human Resources, Mary Burrows, and team. We'll allow you to introduce the team for us, please.
I'll let everybody introduce
Introduce
themselves.
themselves, okay.
Hi, I'm Wendy Andrews, cook manager at Valley View Middle School. And I'd like to introduce the rest of the negotiating team. This is Michelle Martin, she's from Kennedy. Lori Torborg from Oak Grove Elementary, and Joan Hubbard from Westwood. They're all the managers there too. And I'd just like to take a minute to thank Tom and to thank you for your continued support, and we really appreciate Tom. It was a lot of fun with you. Thank you.
I'm Joel Button, and my partner Zadie Martin, and our third partner Ron Rollins, who isn't here this evening. We are the attorneys that help represent the food service, and we just want to say thank you to you folks. The relationship that we have with Bloomington is particularly special. We've had to deal with some touchy subjects over the last couple years. We were just brought on by food service, and that brings on some additional touchy subjects, but we're able to navigate those because there is a level of trust that we've developed through Mary Burrows, which extends to you folks. She's the spearhead of that trust, and that allows us to dive into murky topics, and sometimes we come out getting the things we want, and sometimes we don't. And it's the trust that allows us to keep coming back, and it's important for the people that we represent, because 99.9% of their lives has nothing to do with bargaining at the table. It has everything to do with serving food to students. And it's that trust that allows them to leave the bargaining table, and even if they're disappointed or upset about one thing, they still enjoy it because there's trust. So we want to thank you for that trust that you've developed over the years. So thank you.
So I guess I'll go over the terms of the contract. So the tentative agreement includes restructuring the wage schedule, and when we restructured, we dropped the first step for certain classes of positions, feeling that it would be more competitive to market by doing so. And then we inserted a different step between step 5 and 6. So that was the restructure. The schedule on year 1 had a 2% increase, steps 1 to 6, and 1.5% steps 1 to 6 for 2018, 2019. So year 2 of the contract, it did include retro pay. In addition, the tentative agreement included the following: longevity pay. We did an additional 5 cents to 10L and 15L and 4 cents to 20L effective July 1st, 2018, so the second year of the contract. Previously agreed out-of-network, out-of-pocket maximums for health insurance were enacted. Increased the district health insurance contribution both years and HSA contribution year 2 per IRS regulations. We did increase holidays by 1 day effective July 1st, 2018, which was a spring break holiday. Increased district-provided identity protection an additional 3 years. We did standardize uniform allowance pay for all employees class 1 to class 3, so they're all receiving the same amount. And we're continuing a meet and confer MOU that is in the back of the contract, and then housekeeping changes of dates of contracts and things that needed to be updated just because of time passage. Those are the main changes, and I'm recommending the board adopt the contract and approve it.
Any discussion or questions? Dr. Bennett, you want
I
to
think,
add?
go ahead.
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
if I may. First of all, let me say thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you for your continued service. As I was mentioning earlier, I've eaten meals here now for 10 years, and I've never yet had a bad meal. So The meals are good, and they don't leave a bad taste in my mouth. But as I mentioned earlier to the folks over in the chairs here, Wendy, Michelle, Lori, Joan, I'm the one knucklehead that ends up voting no on these contracts. I wish that I had an opportunity to pick the parts that I liked and vote yes for those, but I don't have that authority. So when we go around the table and they ask for votes, I'm the one you can be mad at. The only component that I'm nervous about is the long-term sustainability. It has nothing to do with your years of service, has nothing to do with you personally. That's what keeps me up at night. So it's either a yes or a no from me, and I feel that my no vote owes you, you're owed an explanation. So I won't belabor the point anymore, but I do appreciate everything that you do for the district. So thanks again for coming.
So this was my first time on food service, and I just want to say that it was, an enjoyable experience if negotiations can be enjoyable. So I really want to thank both sides, the district and the association, for conducting themselves respectfully. I thought it was really good that we were so far apart, but we're able to use some creative problem solving and to get it inching closer and closer so both sides could get their must-haves and reach to an agreement. It was kind of the way I think negotiations should proceed, and it was, as I said, a pretty enjoyable experience. So looking forward to it next time. That's it.
Anybody else? Okay, well, we'll do a roll call vote on this one. So we'll start over here with Director Steigoff.
Yes.
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 No.
Thank you very much for your time.
This was a difficult negotiation in many ways, because anytime you do a salary schedule change like that and you have to drop a step, you have to get really creative on how you can meet the needs of the groups beyond that and stay within a board parameter. So it did take a lot of conversation, and everybody worked, and I think everyone was happy, and maybe not happy, but we worked through it, and everybody was respectful, and it was a really good experience for everybody, I believe. So hopefully it will continue.
Yeah, I heard someone say recently, when you negotiate and compromise, sometimes you agree to things that you don't always necessarily agree with. So that's how you can sometimes come together and make this happen. So thanks again for your hard work in this. And that will bring us to Extended Year 2017 Update. Andy Kubitz and Deirdre Yarbrough, and Andy said he only had, 40 slides? 60. 60 slides, all right.
Good evening. Chair Oliva, school board members, Superintendent Fujitaki. We're excited to be back. We came last year, Learning Supports came after our first foyer, if you will, into an extended year experience. We redid it, as the saying goes. I was just talking to the assistant superintendent. This isn't your father's Oldsmobile. This isn't your father's summer school. Extended year is in reference to the statute, which calls it extended year. And we all have thoughts in our head when we think of our summer school experience, either when we were kids or not. But we are excited about the extended year. If you recall, like I said, we were here last year and we talked about making it experiential in nature. We talked about that a lot of our kids who go to the Bloomington Public Schools might not get the experiences that we want them to, and we know from development and from learning theory that kids need experiences to hang their learning onto. I'll give you one last story, then I'll turn it over to Deirdre to take it over. If we were reading a book and we said, the blue car sped by, we'd all have a different version of our head about what color blue that might be. And so many times the kids who don't have experiences don't understand how to do that, how to make that connection, and they get lost in that. So our goal with extended year stuff was to make sure that we gave kids experiences and knowing that they could be engaged. And if we can get engaged kids, then we know we're on the move. So I'll turn it over to Deirdre to talk about the experience. Before I do that, though, I just want to thank her for her hard work. She led that from Learning Supports. She reminded me today that I didn't just do it alone. We realized that there's a lot of people, a lot of teachers who got together to come up with this curriculum. And it's just been really, really enjoyable. Deirdre's done a great job of leading it. This year, Paul Meyer, thank you, it just escaped me, was the summer school principal. He runs a great program. So a lot of great things happening with the extended year program. I'll turn it over to Deirdre.
All right, thank you. So, excuse me. Within learning supports, when we look at removing barriers and re-engaging disengaged learners, excuse me, with our vision being helping students to create along their pathways to graduation, extended year fits right with that. Extended year and extended day, which is the after-school programming during the year, is part of a system of supports of, or MTSS, to ensure all students are successful along their pathway. And extended time really looks at providing learning opportunities that engage the learner while extending the student's learning beyond traditional school year and school day, as Andy mentioned. You have seen these before, and I won't go through them, but really, in essence, again, as Andy said, extended year is really focused on engagement, equitable access, and opportunity for our kids. I thought this was very interesting. The student demographics during extended year look quite different than if you walk into any of our elementary schools during the school year. And with that in mind, as we think about what the program looks like and we implement it and analyze it and revise it each year, we do keep all of this in mind, and this is very helpful for us. In a picture, this is what extended year looks like. During extended year, to support this young man who is going into, or is in 5th grade now, to support him in being middle school ready and meeting his milestones along pathways to graduation, extended year includes all 3 of the components of the PGP, and that is very intentional, again, related to access, opportunity, and engagement. Thinking of the area of college and career planning for our younger kids, I think we often use the word exploration, so college and career exploration. All of the units very intentionally had a component to them where you can see in the second picture, I am a paleontologist. That was in a 1st grade classroom. And they were circling words, they were circling sight words, and the skill was around reading, but exposing them to the word paleontologist. And then the 3rd picture, taking it a step further, that was a 4th grade room, saying paleontologists are working here. So whether it be working with fossils or pretending to be a meteorologist or pretending that you are on the news or in the lab, there were lots and lots of opportunities for students to experience an extended year. Looking at the life and social skills area, that is ongoing. I love the pictures with all the kids having their arms around each other. That was every day. That's how it was. But whether it be earning some PBIS recognition time and playing basketball, that's Mr. Meyer up there. Whether it's playing basketball with someone or hanging out with your friends or having lunch with your teacher, it's the entire day and the entire program is about life and social skill development.
Just a quick question. Where were those pictures taken at?
Great question.
Location?
So going from left to right, Science Museum, Nickelodeon Universe, classroom, playground, Nickelodeon Universe, and cafeteria.
Thank you.
Yeah. The 3rd picture up there, this is kind of a fun story. So that gentleman works at Olson Elementary as a teacher, Chris Howard is his name. So he came in the room and all the kids were like, Mr. Howard, and had to give hugs. The really cool part is that the teacher who was teaching that class, her childhood teacher was Mr. Howard. So he came into her room as a volunteer, and it was just it was really just cool. So I just, of course, had to snap a picture. So the third component of the PGP, the academic indicators, we constantly have those in mind, whether it be participating in Makerspace, whether it be doing a research project, whether you're learning something new for the first time or the 10th time, or experiencing something for the first or 10th time, like the roller coaster. It is all about learning. And all 4 of our units had books that students took home with them to keep. And that just getting books in their hands, at least 4 books during the summer, was a very intentional addition to the program a few years back when it was revised. So we feel like we had a really solid program, and then but we want to know what families and staff thought. So we gave a survey to our parents, and of those that replied, asking them if they felt their children had access to things they wouldn't typically have. 80% said yes. When asked if their children were engaged in learning that in a way that they typically would not have had, again, 80% said yes. I think that's very telling from a parent perspective on what summer programming looks like. So what did staff say? Of course, we wanted to know what the kids thought, and they love the hands-on. They like doing all those activities, but we also know that we are needing to measure their engagement. So each student that had a goal around engagement met that goal, or 90% met that goal. And overall, when asked to the teachers, hey, were your kids engaged? Teachers said yes. Absolutely, and we saw that the similar results last year as well. So I have to look at my notes for this one because I can't remember all this. Great pictures. I had a really hard time. I told Andy I had a really hard time narrowing down the pictures because they're so great. So we feel like we met our goals around equitable access, opportunity, and engagement. But I really wanted to just say that extended year is just so much more than that. It's about being surprised that your principal comes on a field trip with you. It's about experiencing things for the first time. It's about learning how to peel an orange. It's about it's about engaging the community, because we had community members, Bloomington employees, and parents all volunteer on field trips, which was really cool. It's about 5th and 6th graders saying, hey, can I come back next year? Kind of a hard group to pull in sometimes, but a few of them really enjoyed it. And it's about kids seeing their teachers, their staff from their building during the year, during summer school, and just needing to give hugs and say hi. The middle picture is fantastic. That was at the Science Museum. You'll notice in the upper left, Mr. Fujitaki joined us on a field trip as well, as did many Bloomington employees. So extended year also, it's about parent engagement through having an open house and welcoming parents, and having staff and parents really work together doing all of those summer changes, like medical changes or homelessness or changes to school that is going on for kids. It's about spending time with friends and making new friends. And it's even about our teachers were really thoughtful for our students going into 6th grade. They looked at those students and they said, you know what middle school are they going to? Let's make sure we group them all together so they can continue to make some new friends and kind of get a jump start on that. A couple student responses that I wanted to share with you. I asked a third grader how her first ever roller coaster ride was, and she said, "It was so great, I was so brave," which was very cute. When I asked a second grader how the dinosaur unit was, so again, each unit is a week long, she said, "Dinosaurs were amazing." And then my favorite of all is I asked a first grader what his favorite part of the summer program was, and he said, pretty much everything. I thought that just kind of sums it all up. So we know we have a pretty solid program, but we also continue to look for more tangible outcomes, which I'll then pass it back to Andy.
Yeah, I thought it was, excuse me, I thought it was really exciting, just the way that our culture, little c here, was put into place. Principal Meyer came and asked all of us, could we chaperone on a field trip? And so we all did. We all just jumped in. So we went to the Science Museum, the assistant superintendent, myself. I mean, a lot of different people came. And I know that meant a lot. I had a couple of the summer school teachers who I knew from my principal days say, that was the talk, that you all came. And I think it just shows how positive the culture is and how we're doing great things like that. So again, credit to Deirdre and her team and Paul for making it a great experience. So as I said, as I started, really, really great things. Kids were engaged. When I went over there to visit and when I went on the field trip, those kids were engaged. And that's what we could look at all the different studies and know that if kids are engaged, then we know that we're doing the right thing. I mean, if we're all engaged, we know how well we do as opposed to if we're kind of checked out. So we had a couple different things that we wanted to look at to measure engagement. And one of them was, does the change model of extended year have an impact on students' reading growth as measured by spring to spring map results? And it didn't. And so that's okay. You know, as we were debriefing that, we were talking about, not everything can be a home run. And it'd be great to sit up here every time and say it was perfect. And sometimes life just isn't. We know it was engaging. We know kids learned. That's not the right measure. And so what else could it be? What else is happening? Does the extended year program have an impact on student engagement as measured by attendance rate? Yes. However, we have a great resource in Dr. Heisted. He was able to drill down as he does and says, but the kids who come to summer school usually have good attendance rates anyway. And so did we smack it out of the park there? Not necessarily, but it gives us pause to think about what we can do next. So as Deirdre and I debriefed, what can we do next? So if we're attracting kids who have good attendance already, then let's make a concerted effort to maybe attract kids who don't have good attendance, and let's get them engaged. And so every iteration of this, you get better and you get better and you get better. Back to, I'll leave you with the Oldsmobile story that I told you. The first Oldsmobile wasn't the best, but every year they make their car better. Every year we look at our data and we do the next step of what we can do to make it better and better and better. So we know we've got a great product. We know kids love it. We know families love it. We heard from teachers saying that kids are engaged. The teachers love it. They get to design all of their curriculum. So we've got really, really good tenants there. It's just a matter of how can we not only bring the qualitative stuff, but the quantitative stuff as well. But we're making a difference, and it really showed. So, thank you. Be happy to take any questions.
Sure. Mr. Chair. Well, first of all, thank you for coming. I appreciate your passion. I love these presentations. Two questions, if I may. First, how are the students that come to this program, how are they identified or encouraged? I assume it's not open just to anyone who wants to come to a summer program. How do we find them?
It's based on teacher referral, and there's 10 different indicators that our teachers consider when thinking, is this a good student that would be a good candidate for summer school? Things such as MAP level for reading and math, free and reduced lunch status, homelessness status, being an English language learner. 10 different indicators along those lines that teachers use as a referral starting point.
Okay. And then the second question, pardon me while I turn the page here, I'm going to direct you back to one slide. It's the one where it says parents and guardians said, and you have the two, sorry, I don't have the number. There you go. So 80% were thumbs up. The The first one, looks like there was a no or maybe two no's, and then the somewhats. Do you get any information on why it was a no or why it was a somewhat? I think there might be more to learn from those answers. Did you get any feedback other than, nah, it was okay, or no, I didn't like it?
On the survey, I didn't ask for specific feedback, but in conversations with teachers and some parents, so definitely not a broad representation, I think my kind of educator gut goes to, again, some of those kids were the kids that would have come anyway. They've been exposed to a lot of those same things, the same field trips. So it wasn't new for some children. And I would guess that was part of it, but I didn't ask that question in the survey.
Okay, so maybe it was just they were expecting something different, and that's what the somewhat meant?
Perhaps.
Okay, just, I like the statistics, and there's always, as David Heisted says, there's always more to learn. So just
Absolutely.
wondering, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
I'll just say, next year when you're looking for chaperones, you got 7 people sitting around the table.
Duly noted.
That would be great.
I was thinking the same thing.
We're not
That would be
employees.
Pardon me?
fantastic.
Not employees. Anyway.
They said community members.
Yeah, grandparents can pick places to go to.
No, you don't get to.
I
pick.
wish I had the number of how many Bloomington staff volunteered. I was trying to get that before today, but it was a lot. So very, very it's heartwarming.
You know, going to Nickelodeon universe without your own kids is always more fun anyway.
You know
Then you can go on
that,
whatever
not
rides you
really.
want, right?
That was,
Dr. Corbin?
Well, I just want to say that it's so good to hear every time you bring this information about those kind of programs. Just another example of the wonderful programs and initiatives that we have to offer in our district. And, giving the kids, so many kids, that opportunity to explore during the summertime outside of their own homes, the 4 walls, because many of them, that's where they spend their time. In electronics, watching stuff maybe they don't need to watch. Just having those kind of opportunities that they normally don't get, and that exposure to enrich their vocabulary as well. It's just wonderful opportunity we're giving our kids. And I was actually going to ask you about that, what kind of impact, positive or any kind of impact this program makes in the academic side of this, but you already answered that, and so I appreciate your comment about it, and I think it's a good thing that we continue to work on how we can connect those two things so that we can actually see more of those results during the school year. What is it that we're doing great in there that we can see more success, academic success during the school year, if there's any type of connection there. So just for the time when the kids are with you, besides engagement, that you see them getting very engaged, is there any other way that you can measure or that you measure the success of the program itself?
in what way?
During the time the kids are with you, at the end of this period, do you have any type of evaluation or anything that you look for at the end that you can say this was actually successful, other than seeing the kids being engaged?
Yeah, at the end of the summer, then we surveyed parents, staff, and then went through all of the students. Each student has a continuous learning plan, and there's a goal on that. And so going through all of that and getting feedback from our surveys, that gave us the most feedback on how successful the program was.
Okay, so there is a plan. Okay, thank you.
In parting, I'll just say this is the first year now we've taken this model. So we piloted it last year in the after-school programming at the elementary schools, and now it becomes the model for after-school programming in elementary, this same kind of concept with experiential learning. So we're excited to see how that goes.
Anybody else? Just want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for all the hard work that you put into this. And yeah, the program looks great. I'm all about experiential learning and getting students engaged because I've said it 100 times. The community, having the community engaged is great, and we love all of our friends on the back wall, but when it comes down to it, they're not the ones that are sitting in the classroom taking the test at the end of the day. So it's all about getting the students engaged, and sometimes it's not even so much about seeing the direct impact on, well, you took summer class and now your reading is better, 2 months later, but just having them think that school isn't terrible, right? Getting
Exactly,
them
yes.
to think, what, school can be fun, I can enjoy being here. And it can help them stay in maybe longer than they otherwise would have, and to stay involved and motivated. So, yeah, thanks again.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I'll look forward to watching the update on TV next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Sapp, you had one
Sorry,
that
you just
last
made
thing?
me think of a question. So when, yes, it didn't show progress for the year that Dr. Heisted looked at, but can he, if you have students that repeat and come, 2 years, whatever, then is he looking at long-term more and comparing not just 1 year, but comparing 2 years, 3 years? Is that something that we're going to do?
Yeah, we've been talking with Dr. Heiss about a lot of different ways to look at the data. That was certainly one of them, the longitudinal sense around it, too.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I suppose the irony of that is if the kid was borderline already, and then next year they don't get referred, there's not going to be this huge growth, but, they could, bump, kind of like what happened with the EL students, is
Right.
you graduate out of the program, but you're maybe not at a 99% at the time, so, right, thanks.
Thank you.
Were you going to jump in there too? Okay.
Sure, might as well make it. Everybody gets to contribute. The remedial, the remedial aspect of it, does this extended school go on to the higher grades also from some academic needs that they have? Or because this is so much fun, there's still those students who are falling behind that need remedial attention?
So extended time programming is, used to be called targeted services. Excuse me. In the middle school, targeted services is much different during the school year. So there's no extended time programming during the summer. However, a lot of our kids who attend Galaxy during the year go to Summer Galaxy, which is a different program, but it has a lot of the same components that Galaxy has, really focusing on youth development. And then in the high school, I know that there is some summer program, but that is more related to, I believe, course and credit recovery.
Yeah, I'll leave you with a teaser then, the conversations we're just beginning is taking this piece of experiential learning where kids are getting excited about being a paleontologist and just having the very beginning parts of conversations about what do you do with sixth graders? Do you put them in some kind of a paleontology camp? Where you get to be this career person for a week and try it out. So again, that's in the beginning thoughts, but we're always thinking about what's next.
We're done for
Thank you.
this time. Thank you.
Quick, get up.
That'll bring us to board member reports. Who would like to start us off? Director Bergstrom?
You want to go, Jim?
Yeah, we'll vary the routine a little bit then.
Okay. Director
Okay, it was
Sorrell.
just a great first week of school. I don't know, I went to about 8 different schools on the first 2 or 3 days, and it was just so upbeat and positive. It was just really kind of enjoyable. As I've mentioned before, I have 5 kids in 4 different schools, so I had to make sure I was able to see them and meet their teachers and go through the whole process. But the number, and even at the kindergarten days, the number of parents and families that were there for those kindergarten startups, it was just great, and they were all excited about school. Morale seemed to be good. Everybody was upbeat. We had good weather. Buses were good. That's it
That's it. All right, thank you.
for me.
Go ahead, Don. All right. I attended a 9/17 board meeting last week. Among other things, we went over district goals and objectives. We're still looking for some special ed teachers. That is a special ed person in intermediate district 917. We are not fully staffed. We're getting there. And the positions that are not filled yet, our current staff is covering, so nobody's without service. Also attended, I am 917's rep for the Joint Powers meeting that's been held up at the TIES building. 917 still uses some of TIES software components that they sell. Sat through a presentation by their board of directors and then sat through a very interesting question and answer session afterwards. The stakeholders that are still with TIES had some very pointed and poignant questions that left the board with some homework to do. I think I can characterize it that way. I had the privilege of having lunch over at Indian Mounds last week. Ate with 2 different classes, ate with a 2nd grade class and a 5th grade class. There always seems to be one seat that I can sort of wedge myself into. Sat down with the 2nd grade class. The first thing they asked me was, will you open my milk? Second thing was, will you open this packet of ketchup? And the next one was, what grade are you in? And when I told them I was in 3rd grade, and they didn't believe me, they said, you have a beard, you can't be in 3rd grade. But one of the students was sitting to my left. He asked me, after they had the kids get up and take their tray, he said, will you stay there? Because I want to come back after I put my tray away. I want to know what a school board member does. What does a school board do? And I said, I'll wait for you. So he went and busted his tray, and he came back, and he sit down, and he kind of patted the table, and he goes, what does the school board do? And so I had 38 seconds to describe to a 2nd grader, a brand new 2nd grader, what a school board member does. And after I offered my explanation, he said, oh, so you're somebody's boss. And I said, that's close enough. So after that, I went and sat with the 5th graders, and they didn't believe that I was in 4th grade. They said, you're too old, you have a beard. And I didn't have to open up any of their milk. But it's a blast to go and interact with the student body, to interact with the food service staff. We didn't have an Indian Mounds rep here today. And to go talk to the different departments. One of the teachers all the way at the end, he's a 3rd grade teacher, all the way at the end of the hall, looked at me and he said, thank you for walking all the way down to the end of the hall. It isn't often that people that come to visit will take the time to go all the way to the end. And that's a great metaphor for, I think, what everyone here on the board does. We often will go all the way to the end of the hall. So I want to just have a reminder that PTA meetings are starting up. Some of them are Mondays, some of them are Tuesdays, some of them are Wednesdays. I have one to go to tomorrow over at Indian Mounds. I know that PTA, they're always looking for members. They're always looking for volunteers. If anybody wants to volunteer for an hour in the school, for a carnival, if you want to do more, you can get a hold of the front office at any one of the schools, and they can direct you to the volunteer person, which will more than likely be the PTA contact. Also, just want to make sure that everyone remembers Heritage Days is coming up this Saturday, and you got to come out and see all of our schools because they're all going to be in the Heritage Days parade. Mm-hmm. That'll do it.
Dr. Sagoff?
So I've had a chance to volunteer at the information referendum table at several back-to-school nights. And so far, everything's been really positive that I hear from parents and people visiting our schools. I also had a chance to attend the staff lunch at Valley View Middle School. I also got to judge a Cupcake Wars competition. That was the team building activity for one of our schools, so that was fun. I have to say, some of them were really great chefs, but some of them, it's a good thing they're a teacher, because some of them were kind of nasty tasting, but they were but it was still a great team building, and they all looked like they had a great time, and, you know, they had to come up with not just, you know, they were supposed to be creative and come up with all these themes, and they were judged on their presentation and everything, so it was a great team building activity. I also attended the Kennedy Show Choir's Pancake Breakfast this weekend and had a chance to visit with some group of new freshmen that are currently at Kennedy, and told me that they were having a great start as their career at high school there, so that was good news to hear. Right before I came here, I had a chance to stop by City Hall and attend, they had the rededication of the Peace Pole, and it was dedicated when I was on the Human Rights Commission. And I couldn't believe that it's already been 10 years since they put that in, but I also just wanted to say that they mentioned that our schools hold the Peace Run every year as part of that whole, when the pole was put in and the Peace Run. So, and also, I just wanted to share with you guys that I recently was introduced to I think she's relatively recently hired staff member. And my understanding was, I'm not sure if I have quite what she was working on, but I think she had been away working on a master's. I'm not quite sure, but she was working on some further education, let's just say. But anyway, she told me that she was so happy to be working in a district that most all of the best practices that she learned in her classes were already being implemented when she got here. And she was so thrilled to be here. So I thought that was really great news to hear, that she's coming right off some further education and thought everything was being implemented. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay. So I am part of the Bloomington Lead Initiative, which is a cohort of about 35, 40 people that will be together for about 9 months. And they normally bring, every time we have a meeting, they bring different topics that have to do with the city. And the last topic was about the Bloomington School District. And so representing Eric Melby and John Weiser, they were both there giving a very nice presentation about our school district, all the different initiatives, our students, our great staff, the pathways to graduation, technology, referendum too. And it was a wonderful presentation. As always, they did a very good job, so very proud of them and the work that they did. Other thing I just wanted to share with you, just for you to maybe, if you're interested in listening to, recently NPR made a very interesting program. They had an interesting program and an education segment about school boards in Minnesota and how there is not too many school board members of color. So there was a reporter that took the time to do some research about how many school board members of color there are in Minnesota, and she came up with very good information and very interesting numbers. I was invited to be part of their program, which was live last Wednesday. Unfortunately, I was not able to participate because since I'm a teacher, I did not want to leave my kids alone the second day of school. So, but I will be sending the link to you if you're interested in listening to that. It's very interesting. They're also looking for school board members who might want to share how they feel about having school board members of color at the table. So let's leave it there.
Anybody else? Okay. We had the new teacher rally and the back-to-school rally here in the past couple of weeks. That was wonderful. Jefferson Marching Band smashed it out of the park. Was able to attend Oak Grove Middle School and Ridgeview's back-to-school nights, and those were great. It made it a little bit easier that my kids were also there, but yeah, it was nice to see everybody, see the hard work that goes into back-to-school night. My daughter's first grade teacher, it was very cute, had made special bags for each kid, welcoming them back to school. And it had things like, it had a penny in there to show, to remind you that you're valuable and things like that. And it was very cute. It was wonderful. Also, the Friday before school started, I was invited to attend the staff development purpose retreat held by Youth Frontiers over at Ridgeview Elementary School. So I was able to, I could only stay for about the first hour, but to see the way that they would get the teachers engaged and then talk about, your purpose, or a lot of times I've heard it as what's your why? Why are you doing this? And just remain focused. And the theme of the day was, if you stay focused on all the static, all the noise around you, sometimes you forget why you're there and why you're doing the job that you're doing. And it can drain the life out of you to listen to all the noise instead of just remain focused on the kids. So thought it was very, very well done. Director Bergstrom, he reminded me of something, because I've heard of this at Ridgeview. They have, because they have so many kids that want to be bus patrols, what they'll sometimes do is instead of having them be bus patrols, they'll have lunch patrols, and their job is to go open up milk for kindergartners. So I was thinking, well, not to take away jobs from fifth graders that want to open up milk, but maybe we should get pitchers of milk and just pour it in a glass and not throw away so many cartons and have so much waste. Maybe that's an initiative that we can look at for the future. Same with the ketchup packets. I know some of those schools, they just have pump ketchup instead of packets. But that's all that I had. Should bring us to, if nobody else had anything to report, we'll bring us to the superintendent report.
Great, thank you. Special recognition and thanks to Mayor Jean Winstead for again joining me on the first day of school to greet and welcome parents, staff, and students back at Olson Elementary School. The mayor and I were very impressed with how the staff and teachers positively and warmly engaged with parents and students. I have good news to share. The 2017 legislature established a new innovation zone law. The law calls for the commissioner to establish an innovation zone advisory panel. The panel's role is to review all innovation plan proposals, and most important, the advisory panel then makes recommendations to the commissioner which plans to approve. The law calls for the panel to have 9 members. 8 of the members will be from 8 educational organizations, such as the Office of Higher Education, MSBA. But the 9th member is to be appointed by the commissioner is to be a member with expertise in education, in evaluation and research. And Dave Heisted was invited, and he's accepted to be on that panel. So that's really good news. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Celebrity.
Is there any other business to come before the board? Okay, call the meeting adjourned.